What happens when the news you read, well, feels like it was ripped straight from the wildest, most unbelievable screenplays? Or, when the line between reality and just absurd fiction completely blurs? Today, we're taking a deep dive into a stack of what we're calling Screenplays news stories, a collection of narratives so bizarre, so shocking, and often so unsettling that they challenge our every expectation of what a story can even be.
Yeah, these aren't your typical headlines, are they?
Not at all. Instead, they're excerpts from fictional news reports and script treatments, each one a self-contained universe of just unbelievable events.
And our mission here is really to unpack these extraordinary accounts as pure source material, right? We want to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from the sheer absurdity of it all.
Exactly. We'll explore the narratives presented, highlighting their most surprising facts and, frankly, curious plot twists. And we'll consider what they might reveal about the fictional worlds they describe, all without, and this is important, endorsing any specific viewpoints or making real-world judgments about the content itself. We're just looking at the source material.
Absolutely, just digging into the text as it's presented.
Okay, let's unpack that. Okay, so we're going to kick things off with this story that genuinely sent shockwaves through the news sources we received. The initial shocker. The reported passing of Professor Noam Chomsky, esteemed linguist, political theorist, and intellectual giant whose influence spans decades, a huge figure.
Indeed. And what makes this particular report so striking are the utterly bizarre circumstances surrounding his death. As detailed in the sources we looked at, Professor Chomsky had reportedly been in a vegetative state for about a year following a stroke. He was residing in a hospice. His tragic end apparently came during what was described as a shark-watching trip organized by the hospice staff.
A shark-watching trip for someone in that condition.
That's what the source says. A detail that immediately grabs your attention with its, surreal specificity. The account states that upon sighting a large shark, Chomsky began grunting in a manner that led the staff to believe he was on the verge of yet another great contribution to socialist philosophy.
Seriously, they thought his grunts were philosophical insights.
That seems to be the interpretation reported. So, in an attempt to provide him with a better view, the staff lifted him. But here's where the situation just tragically unravels. Their attention was critically diverted when, quote, another care home resident accidentally toppling overboard.
Oh, no.
So, in the ensuing chaos, the staff lost their grip and Chomsky toppled overboard into the waters teeming with ravenous sharks.
Oh, my God.
Where he was, as the source grimly puts it, devoured before rescue.
Devoured by sharks. Chomsky. I can barely process it.
It's an almost unbelievable account, but despite this truly unbelievable manner of death, the sources are clear that Professor Noam Chomsky leaves behind this profound legacy. Groundbreaking work in linguistics, political activism, philosophy.
Yeah.
His insights, his intellectual contributions have left, an indelible mark.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. The sheer absurdity of how this intellectual giant's life reportedly came to an end. You have this revered mind incapacitated on what sounds like a whimsical, almost ill-conceived outing.
Right.
And then just total chaos. It raises so many questions about priorities, about attention, about, sharks.
Exactly.
It's almost too wild to comprehend, especially for a figure of his stature. You'd expect, a quiet, dignified passing, not this almost slapstick, yet profoundly tragic scenario.
And what's fascinating here is the immediate pivot. You go from the tragic, almost farcical nature of his passing to the profound implications that follow. The narrative quickly shifts from this personal tragedy to what becomes a national crisis, and solely because of the man's intellectual weight.
Right.
It highlights how certain individuals become more than just people. They become symbols, and their very physical being, or what's left of it, can trigger these unprecedented, even extreme responses from the state. It speaks to a kind of societal anxiety, I think, about the power that intellectual figures can wield even after they're gone.
And just when you thought the story of Professor Chomsky couldn't get any stranger, it takes a truly shocking turn. The chaos and panic apparently didn't end with his death. In a startling development, it actually escalated because of a post-mortem discovery that supposedly threatened national security.
That's right. The sources reveal that an MRI scan conducted after his death, presumably standard procedure maybe, revealed the startling absence of Chomsky's brain.
His brain was missing.
Missing, gone, which sparked immediate fears of a, quote, diabolical plot that sent shockwaves across the nation. It suggests this deep societal paranoia. Wow.
President Biden's response, as detailed, was swift and drastic. He apparently imposed a national lockdown.
A lockdown for a brain.
Yes, and granted unprecedented powers to the military to conduct house-to-house searches in a desperate bid to locate the missing brain. Or maybe the person who took it.
This sounds less like a typical national emergency and more like the plot of some high-stakes espionage thriller, like something out of a movie.
Precisely. The urgency was underscored by an unnamed government source who expressed these grave concerns, stating, quote, "The fear is that someone foreign could install the greatest brain in human history inside their own head and take over everything, real scary stuff."
Take over everything. With Chomsky's brain.
That's the fear expressed. The speculation about the ramifications just ignited these widespread, fevered theories among experts and officials alike. Some speculated that the possessor of Chomsky's brain could gain unparalleled intelligence and insight.
Okay, I can sort of see that logic in a sci-fi way. While others feared they could wield untold power and influence over society. And adding to this already, frenzied atmosphere, rumors began to circulate that Chomsky may have had not just one, but 3 brains.
3 brains.
Seriously.
Because of his extraordinary intellect and genius. That's the justification given.
Right, okay, 3 brains.
And if that were true, the implications, as the source outlines, were dire. It could mean 3 nefarious individuals might be on the brink of receiving 1 brain each, or perhaps 2 individuals receiving 1.5 brains.
This is getting exponentially crazier.
This scenario, according to the sources, left authorities and citizens alike on edge, with the specter of an intellectual coup looming large. So, as the nation grapples with this unprecedented crisis, the search for Chomsky's brain or brains intensifies, with the fate of the country apparently hanging in the balance. So what does this all mean for us? I mean, the idea that one person's brain, or possibly 3 brains, could spark a national lockdown, international espionage, it truly speaks volumes about the perceived power of intellect, right? And perhaps a profound societal fear of knowledge being weaponized or falling into the wrong hands.
Absolutely.
It's almost as if the very concept of Chomsky's genius, existing outside of, democratic control, is so terrifying that it justifies a complete suspension of civil liberties.
It's a fascinating, if disturbing, commentary on how society values and simultaneously fears intellectual power when it transcends traditional boundaries.
Yeah.
And this narrative, it isn't just about the physical brain, is it? It's a profound metaphor, really, for the societal anxiety around intellectual power itself. It suggests that profound genius, when it's untethered from perceived control, can be viewed as the ultimate threat, triggering this collective moral panic that overrides civil liberties. It echoes historical fears, dangerous knowledge, the mad scientist trope.
Right.
But amplified by the sheer scale of media influence today and the potential for a weaponized intellect. The search for the brain becomes this societal quest to reclaim control over the very concept of transformative intellect.
And just when you thought it couldn't possibly get any stranger.
Here's more.
Oh, yes. We uncover even more about Professor Chomsky, including, apparently, what he envisioned for the afterlife, followed by a truly bizarre attempt to exploit and commercialize his legacy.
Okay, afterlife plans. Let's hear this.
So according to one source, in a recent media interview, the renowned linguist and political activist reportedly disclosed plans for a polyamorous triad with his first wife, Carol, and his current wife, Valeria, in the afterlife.
A polyamorous triad in the afterlife. Okay.
Chomsky, known for his groundbreaking theories, apparently boldly stated that intelligent humans have evolved past monogamy.
Right. Consistent with some of his views, maybe.
And as he delved into this vision, he apparently went on an extended tangent, painting a vivid picture of the arrangement. He had a mischievous glint, frequently paused to say, and even, get this, reached to unbuckle his belt before stopping himself with a chuckle.
He did what?
And muttering, quote, "I'd be behind Valeria whilst Carol. I can't say that out loud."
Wow. That's, very candid and quite personal, especially for what might have been his final public statements. Offers a strange insight.
Yeah. Now, if that wasn't a twist on the afterlife, how about a Noam Chomsky-themed amusement park?
Oh, come on, seriously.
You heard that right. Let's dive into the pitch meeting for Chom World, presented by someone named Bev Stoll.
Okay, Chom World. I'm almost afraid to ask. Sources detail a pitch meeting for Chom World, a Noam Chomsky-themed amusement park, led by this Bev Stoll, who's described as eccentric and frazzled. Her vision, she claims, is an exhilarating educational journey into the mind of Noam Chomsky.
Educational.
The proposed features are truly outlandish. She suggests filling the park with Chomsky lookalikes in costumes, dancing, and singing Disney songs.
Disney songs. Like
Specifically A Whole New World, but with a Chomsky twist.
a Chomsky twist on Aladdin.
Apparently. And when confronted about copyright concerns, Bev just scoffs, "What are they going to do, sue us? Ha ha." She also mentions hiring a competent lawyer specializing in groan analysis.
Groan analysis.
To analyze Chomsky's guttural moans from his stroke to legally secure his rights. It's an almost unbelievably crass attempt to monetize his suffering.
That's appalling.
For merchandise, there would be Chomlet. Chomsky-themed chocolate bars with little quotes or random linguistics terms embedded in them.
Chomlet, okay. Chocolate bars with linguistics terms. That's certainly a unique take on intellectual property, I guess.
Indeed. The rides include an exhilarating 4D virtual ride based on manufacturing consent.
How do you make manufacturing consent a 4D ride?
Well, audience members sit in aggressively vibrating chairs, while the first 4 chapters are read by a text-to-speech voiceover loudspeakers, and they get water sprayed at them for immersion.
Vibrating chairs and text-to-speech Chomsky. Immersive.
Bev also vaguely suggests a sex-themed area where, quote, pornography playing or something.
Or something, just throws that out there.
Seems so. The high-concept centerpiece would be a gigantic 60-foot animatronic Chomsky promising fame and riches to donors, and donors' waivers, she suggests, would be shredded by naked strippers through a system of pulleys, while the animatronic Chomsky laughs maniacally, saying, "Ha ha ha, this is literally what capitalism does."
Naked strippers shredding waivers while a giant Chomsky laughs about capitalism.
Okay. Bev claims access to all of his money for funding, but the most disturbing proposal, according to the sources, is Bev's suggestion of featuring the real Chomsky intubated, recovering from a stroke, in an exhibition.
No, you cannot be serious.
Guests could pay a premium to feed him bugs or dirt, pet him, stroke him, or even poke him with a small but firm stick.
Feed him bugs. Poke it with a stick. This is beyond belief.
Bev concludes by offering personal entertainment to sweeten the deal for the executives, whose skepticism apparently fades into eager glances and excitement palpable.
So the executives were potentially buying into this, even the part about exploiting the real dying Chomsky.
The source suggests their skepticism waned.
This whole segment, it highlights a profound and deeply uncomfortable truth about our world, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The extent to which anything at all, even a revered intellectual's legacy and suffering, can be commodified, exploited for profit, pushing literally all ethical boundaries for commercial gain.
Yeah.
It's a stark reflection of a world where profit often just overrides human dignity, moral considerations. The transformation of a serious academic figure into this grotesque theme park attraction, culminating in suggesting public exploitation of his actual physical suffering. It's a truly disturbing vision of unchecked commercialism.
And this narrative, it serves as a stark warning, really, about the commodification of individuals, especially those who hold significant cultural or intellectual capital. It illustrates the societal impulse to reduce complex figures to marketable commodities, often stripping away their dignity in the process.
Yeah.
And the executives shifting skepticism to eager glances, that also speaks volumes, right? About how readily profit motives can overcome moral qualms, no matter how egregious the proposal is.
It really forces us to consider the price of our collective entertainment and distraction. The Chomsky narrative showed us how readily an extreme story can spark a reported national crisis, and how quickly commercialism can exploit even the most tragic elements. But this isn't just about symbolic figures, it's about real governance, or at least narratives about governance. Let's shift our gaze to the UK, where politics, according to these sources, seems to have taken a truly surreal turn. Revealing how the absurd can become law and how leaders might navigate public discontent with equally bizarre measures. And we begin with the curious, almost unbelievable case of Keir Starmer. Specifically an incident on July 2nd, 2024 that, well, in any normal political landscape should have torpedoed his career instantly.
Right. What happened there?
He was caught on a hot mic speaking to his pregnant wife after she complained about being hungry. And his exact words, "I'll kick that thing baby out of you."
Wow. Wow.
Now, you'd expect universal condemnation, right? A swift end to his Labour Party leadership, public outcry, maybe even calls for his resignation.
Definitely. That sounds career-ending.
But the sources tell a completely different and, frankly, baffling story.
They do. Contrary to all expectations, this deeply offensive remark gave the Labour Party a surprising, almost unbelievable boost in the polls.
A boost. Really?
Yeah, Starmer was suddenly seen as more relatable to key red wall voters, that crucial demographic that often swings elections, and even, astonishingly, became an unlikely sex symbol.
A sex symbol after saying that.
It truly speaks to a bizarre desire for raw, unvarnished authenticity in this fictional world, even when that authenticity is incredibly vulgar and, quite frankly, alarming. What this fictional world values in its leaders is clearly not what we might anticipate.
It's astonishing. According to the sources, female voters reported feeling hot under the collar, with one quoted as saying, "I wouldn't mind him kicking one out of me."
Good grief.
Even Labor Deputy Leader Angela Rayner publicly joked about it, quipping, "Well, at least we know Keir's passionate about everything." This wasn't a PR disaster. It seemed to further endear the Labor leadership to voters who apparently valued this kind of blunt, almost aggressive authenticity.
So it actually worked in his favor.
It seems so. And Labor didn't shy away from it. The party actually leveraged this bizarre incident by launching a line of T-shirts emblazoned with the controversial quote, "Vote Labor or I'll kick that fucking baby out of you."
No, they didn't really.
They did, according to these sources. They reportedly flew off the shelves, becoming an unlikely campaign tool. It's an almost unbelievable marketing success story built entirely on controversy.
It suggests that in this fictional political landscape, any attention, even negative, can be weaponized for gain, which is deeply cynical.
Very. But this creates a fascinating and ultimately devastating parallel, however. When the Conservative Party, caught off guard by Labor's unexpected triumph, attempted to imitate their rival's raw appeal.
Ah, okay, so they tried to jump on the bandwagon.
Exactly. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, in an effort to mirror Starmer's supposed relatability, was caught on a hot mic calling his own wife a cow.
Oh dear, and how did that go down?
The outcome was starkly, brutally different, night and day.
Really?
Unlike Starmer's situation, Sunak's remark resulted in widespread condemnation and accusations of misogyny. He saw a significant drop in the polls, with the public recoiling from his perceived cruelty.
So the same tactic, completely different result.
Completely. Public reactions remained deeply divided, with some appalled by the normalization of such language. But the contrast between Starmer's success and Sunak's failure truly highlights a perplexing, almost arbitrary dynamic in public trust and image in this fictional world.
It's bizarre, like there's no consistency.
And Angela Rayner, of course, didn't miss a beat, capitalizing on Sunak's blunder to further contrast his character with Starmer's perceived authenticity.
Right. So it played right into her hands.
It makes you wonder what, in these fictional political landscapes, truly defines a leader's connection with the public. It seems to be a very fine and very subjective line between a career-ending gaffe and a popularity boost.
Indeed. It almost seems as though the public in these narratives is looking for a transgression, but only from a specific, perhaps unexpected source. It's a very particular kind of authenticity that resonates, one that is easily misread, as Sunak's attempt clearly demonstrates. And the saga of Keir Starmer's public image doesn't end there, does it? In fact, we see a truly disastrous turn of events later on that shows the fickle nature of this fictional electorate.
Oh, it gets wilder, believe me. Because on Election Day itself, Starmer's campaign, which had enjoyed a steady lead, took a disastrous nosedive during his final stump speech.
Okay, what happened this time? Not another hot mic.
Worse, arguably, the reason. He farted into the microphone and then declared, "Smell that, Sunak. 4! Lovely."
He did what?
Yes. This moment, captured live on national television, instantly went viral, but this time, not his favor.
Okay, I can see how that might not play well.
Right. The public, who had somehow embraced Starmer's raw side before, drew a hard line here. This wasn't perceived as authentic passion, but as a profound lack of decorum.
Yeah, a fart isn't exactly passionate, is it? It's just juvenile.
Exactly. An act so juvenile and disrespectful that it fundamentally undermined his perceived statesmanship. The incident triggered an immediate and overwhelming backlash online, with hashtags like #Fartgate and #4Gate trending within minutes.
Oh, I can imagine.
A Snap poll revealed a staggering 70-point swing to the Conservative Party.
70 points, just from that. Wow, that highlights the incredibly fragile nature of public perception in these fictional scenarios.
Voters were clearly appalled, with one lifelong Labor supporter quoted lamenting, "How can we trust a man who does something so juvenile and disrespectful?"
It's not just the act itself, is it? It's the perceived character flaw it exposes, an inability to rise to the dignity of the office. What do you think that specific act, the flatulence, symbolized for this fictional electorate that the earlier remark didn't?
Well, I think it feels like a fundamental breach of statesmanship. The kick the baby comment, while deeply offensive, could somehow be reframed, twisted into fiery passion as sort of, he cares so much he's just too real narrative.
Right, a very charitable interpretation, but I see your point.
But a public fart, followed by that comment, it just screams juvenile disrespect, a complete lack of self-awareness. And in the high stakes of an election, that perception proved catastrophic.
So the line was drawn at bodily functions, basically.
Apparently so. And Starmer's response was immediate, but ultimately futile. He issued a statement later that day, visibly shaken, stating, "I am deeply sorry for my actions earlier today," describing it as an ill-judged attempted humor.
Bit late for apologies, I'd imagine.
Too late. Political expert Dr. Elaine Roberts, quoted in our sources, noted, "This is one of the most dramatic collapses in political support I've ever seen. It's not just the act itself, but the symbolism of it. A complete departure from the statesmanship expected from a potential prime minister."
Yeah, that makes sense.
Early results indicated a massive swing towards the Conservative Party, with traditional Labour strongholds flipping blue, leading to Rishi Sunak's triumphant return to Downing Street. Labour Party insiders were reportedly in disarray, calling it a nightmare scenario.
So the initial authenticity boost completely evaporated. It seems the threshold for what constitutes acceptable raw appeal is very specific and, in this case, surprisingly low.
Exactly. The abruptness of the downfall underscores a hypersensitive public sphere where even the most minor, seemingly trivial actions can have catastrophic political consequences, especially when perceived as a lack of seriousness or decorum.
And this trend of extreme blunders continues for Starmer, even after what should have been a triumphant moment, right?
That's right, because in another truly shocking turn of events, Keir Starmer's resounding Labour landslide victory, a moment that should have solidified his power, was actually jeopardized by a deeply disturbing incident, one that raises profound questions about his judgment.
Okay, what now?
During a routine cross-party meeting, Starmer was seen laughing while showing a video on his phone titled, "Boy with Down Syndrome Tragically Crushed by Meat Grinder."
Oh my God, that's horrific.
Eyewitnesses reported visible distress among Conservative MPs who were subjected to this horrific content.
And his initial defense was, frankly, as unbelievable as the act itself. Starmer issued a statement claiming the video was a virus on his phone.
A virus? Seriously?
Yes. Insisting he had intended to play a different video and only realized the nature of the content too late to stop it. It was an immediate, if pretty flimsy, attempt at damage control.
But the scandal intensified just 2 days later when enhanced audio surfaced. This audio clearly captured Starmer saying to the Tory MPs, and watch now, he's about to get crushed by the meat grinder moments before the scene unfolded.
So it wasn't an accident at all. He knew exactly what he was showing.
Exactly. It was a deliberate act and a horrific one.
This revelation reignited the furor, leading to widespread condemnation and calls for Starmer's immediate resignation. Rishi Sunak described the incident as beyond comprehension and called for an urgent investigation.
Understandably.
The scandal cast a shadow over Labour's recent electoral success, threatening internal turmoil and a potential collapse in public trust. It highlights the precarious nature of public trust even after a landslide victory, and the immense power of a single, deeply repugnant act to undermine an entire political mandate in this fictional world.
It suggests that even the most calculated political moves can be undone by a fundamental moral failing, or at least the public perception of one. This whole series of events with Starmer just keeps getting more and more unfathomable, and it reaches a kind of peak when he's faced with an economic crisis.
Right, and this raises an important question. What radical measures might a leader take when faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges? And what are the unexpected and often grotesque consequences? It forces us to consider the ethical lines that might be crossed in a desperate bid for economic stability.
Well, in this fictional reality, as UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer faced an unprecedented stock market crash and a declared recession. Industry experts were advising bold, decisive action to restore confidence as public trust in the government's ability to manage this crisis is at an all-time low.
Okay, standard crisis playbook so far. What did he do?
So Starmer, in a cabinet meeting with calm determination, declared, "It's clear that we need to lower the age of consent until we can work out what the fuck is going on."
He said what? Lower the age of consent to fix the economy.
Yes. He even suggested rolling it out in just a single constituency mine, for example, to see if it works. The sheer audacity, The casual delivery of such a monstrous proposal is truly chilling.
I'm speechless. What did the cabinet say?
The cabinet ministers, described as horrified but too afraid to oppose him, fearing for their careers, acquiesced, just went along with it.
Wow, that speaks volumes about the culture of fear and unchecked power within this fictional government. And what happened next? Did it work?
Bizarrely, yes. What followed was an immediate, bizarre economic recovery. The next day, the streets were filled with delirious, screaming people celebrating, and the stock market hit all-time highs.
That's insane. It's a shocking, almost unbelievable cause and effect relationship between a truly reprehensible policy and an immediate, miraculous economic boom. It suggests a fictional reality where economic prosperity is completely detached from any moral consequence, at least initially.
And Starmer's reaction to this, according to the sources, was just as sinister as the policy itself. He was seen sitting on a jewel-encrusted throne with a sinister smile, chuckling darkly, and saying the word pleasure over and over again.
Pleasure. Erg, that's deeply unsettling.
You could almost hear the unsettling implications of that single word. But then here's the twist, and it's a pivot point for public perception. The celebrating crowds outside heard Starmer's voice through a hot mic.
Oh no, not another hot mic incident.
Yep, they heard him saying pleasure. Someone yelled, "What? Why is he saying pleasure?" Then another, "Wait, he's a pedo, get him." The crowd's mood turned instantly from jubilation to absolute violent anger as they stormed Downing Street.
So the penny finally dropped.
Big time. Sounds of breaking glass and shouts growing louder. It shows how quickly public sentiment can pivot, from blind celebration of a perceived recovery to absolute moral outrage, even in the face of apparent economic success. The hidden truth, once revealed, shattered the illusion.
It certainly highlights the idea that some lines, even in these distorted political realities, cannot be crossed without severe repercussions, especially when the underlying motivations become clear. It brings a shocking, almost grotesque end to that particular narrative arc for Starmer, revealing that while the public might accept a lot, fundamental moral boundaries, once recognized, can still trigger an immediate and overwhelming backlash.
The same source details what happened at the annual Downing Street Halloween party.
Oh, I have a bad feeling about this.
The Prime Minister arrived dressed as African Adolf Hitler, complete with full blackface makeup.
You are kidding me? African Adolf Hitler in blackface.
I am not kidding you. Photos of this costume spread like wildfire, sparking international outrage and a swift scramble for damage control. You can just imagine the headlines and the diplomatic fallout from such a choice, especially from a world leader.
It's an act of such staggering insensitivity, it feels deliberately provocative or just profoundly stupid.
And in a familiar pattern we've seen in these narratives, Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer attempted to address the situation, but his response was equally bizarre.
Let me guess, he made it worse.
Pretty much. He stated, "Look, mistakes were made, but I'm not the same person I was 3 days ago, and that it was time to get over it."
Get over it! That's his response to blackface Hitler.
Apparently. He then abruptly ended the conference, citing handlers in Mossad, requiring his attention due to domestic concerns in Israel.
Mossad, where did that come from? This particular deflection, especially the Mossad detail, adds yet another layer of bizarre, almost conspiratorial absurdity to the political landscape described in these sources.
It's a world where even the explanations for outrageous behavior are themselves outrageous.
It really is.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any more bizarre, as Starmer left, he unwittingly left behind a large, conspicuous bag of cash.
A bag of cash just lying there.
Yep. Minutes later, he sheepishly returned, asking the press, "Does anyone know whose bag of money this is?" A hot mic then caught him muttering, "Those suckers will believe anything. That was my bag of money." Bribe money. Oh, fuck. I want a hot mic.
Oh, for goodness sake, another hot mic. This series of blunders, from the costume to the bribe money, only intensified calls for accountability.
What's fascinating is that this extraordinary scandal actually overshadowed the historic hybrid presidency in the U.S., where Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump combined to form President Kamold Harumpis.
Wait, back up. President Kamold Harumpis.
That's what the source says, a hybrid presidency. But the UK scandals were apparently so outrageous, they eclipsed even that foundational shift in global power.
This illustrates a world where public figures are either completely tone-deaf to the implications of their actions, or are engaging in such extreme theatrics that even a fundamental shift in a major world power like the U.S. pales in comparison. The normalization of such behavior is truly unsettling, creating a political climate where the most extreme actions are barely registered amid the constant stream of absurdity. It suggests a society where shock value has become the primary currency of public life.
And the political absurdities continue, with Starmer's perplexing defense of a key figure in his new government. A defense that seems to just dig a deeper hole with every clarification.
Yes. This raises an important question. At what point does a political defense become more damaging than the original accusation? And what does it reveal about the perception of public accountability? It seems in this fictional world, the attempts to explain away scandal often create an even greater one.
Exactly. Prime Minister Keir Starmer described the ongoing Greg Wallace scandal as possibly the biggest misunderstanding of all time. Now, Wallace, known as the former MasterChef co-host, had been appointed Minister for Banter and Pulses in Starmer's controversial Weatherspoons cabinet.
Minister for Banter and Pulses, in the Weatherspoons cabinet.
Okay, a cabinet seemingly built on questionable merit. He faced accusations of indecent conduct, including a now notorious incident in which he reportedly removed his trousers during a first date.
Right. Sounds like a pretty clear-cut case of inappropriate behavior.
You'd think. Starmer's defense was, to say the least, baffling and bordering on the delusional. He claimed Wallace only took his trousers off because he was incredibly moved to hear of the plight of people in Africa, spontaneously deciding to donate his trousers to the starving.
He donated his trousers mid-date out of charity. That's a stretch. It's a leap of logic that defies all reason, attempting to reframe a lewd act as an act of profound, spontaneous charity.
It's a rhetorical maneuver that highlights the desperate lengths these politicians go to in order to maintain a semblance of public trust, however flimsy.
And it gets even more perplexing, doesn't it? And frankly, disturbing.
It does. When queried about Wallace asking a female colleague, "Would you like to eat eaten mess off of my willy?" Starmer appeared completely unfazed. He clarified, with a straight face, Willie is the name of Greg's son. He was offering pudding.
His son is named Willie, and he offers pudding off him.
Okay. A journalist, understandably confused and pressing for genuine answers, then pressed further, noting that Wallace himself later clarified, "I meant off of my penis."
Right. So not his son then.
Starmer's response to this was immediate and without hesitation. Penis is the name of his other son. And by the way, he's very disabled, so shame on you.
He has another son named Penis who is disabled. And shame on the journalist for asking. This elicited gasps from the press gallery, apparently.
I'm not surprised. The audacity of his lies, twisting the meaning of common words, and then weaponizing a fictional disability is just jaw-dropping.
The sheer audacity of these explanations and the willingness of a prime minister in this fictional world to offer them without apparent irony or self-awareness speaks volumes about the level of public discourse depicted. It shows a complete disregard for logical consistency, for truth, and for basic decency, almost as if the truth has become entirely fluid and malleable to be shaped by whoever is speaking.
The response to the journalist is particularly chilling, a complete inversion of accountability.
And the final act of this particular scene is perhaps the most shocking and violent.
Yes. When confronted with over 50 women with near-identical descriptions of Wallace's behavior, a mountain of evidence that couldn't be dismissed as a misunderstanding, Starmer scoffed. They knew what to expect. There's been rumors about Greg for decades.
Blaming the victims. Classy.
This dismissal of so many serious accusations is appalling enough. But then he escalated beyond words. He physically hurled a brick into the crowd, striking a female journalist from Sky News directly in the face before storming back inside. Number 10.
He threw a brick at a journalist. It's an act that completely shatters any remaining pretense of statesmanship or decorum, transforming a political defense into an act of outright aggression.
This is the culmination of the absurdity of a prime minister physically assaulting a journalist during a press conference. It's a chilling portrayal of power, completely unchecked, where the leader believes they are above all scrutiny, even physical confrontation.
It suggests a world where those in power are not only willing to bend the truth, but also to physically lash out when cornered. The normalization of such extreme behavior within these narratives forces us to question the very fabric of this fictional society.
Okay, let's shift gears now. We have some equally perplexing narratives that seem straight out of a bizarre crime novel or maybe a truly ill-conceived entertainment project where common sense is definitely not invited. These stories push the boundaries of what is considered plausible or even ethical in the pursuit of narrative shock.
Right. This section really highlights the strange ways human behavior is depicted and interpreted in these sources, often with a disturbing lack of empathy or logical consistency. It encourages critical thinking about the why behind these choices and how they reflect on the very boundaries of storytelling and, well, public decency.
Let's start with a truly bizarre case, the Noam Chomsky saga. Now, in these sources, Noam Chomsky, the esteemed linguist and political theorist, had been confined to a hospice bed in a vegetative state for a year following a severe stroke.
Okay, so completely incapacitated.
Yet, despite this condition, he was arrested under bizarre and perplexing circumstances that defy any rational explanation. The accusation. Authorities claim Chomsky had allegedly transported his consciousness into a 15-year-old boy who was in the process of losing his virginity to another 15-year-old.
He transported his consciousness while in a vegetative state into a teenager.
You can't make this stuff up.
And the police evidence for this utterly fantastical claim, they claim that Chomsky, who could only communicate through grunts and gurgles, made vocalizations that indicated pleasure, leading them to suspect the consciousness transfer.
Pleasure grunts as evidence of psychic projection.
Right. The lead detective stated there was no other conceivable explanation. The sheer lack of actual evidence, replaced by a detective's unwavering certainty based on grunts, is a striking detail.
And the legal angle?
Legal experts, incredibly, shrugged and suggested that it may indeed be a legal loophole, as it's not illegal for a 15-year-old to lose their virginity. One expert even praised Chomsky's strategy as genius.
Genius. For alleged psychic voyeurism via a teenager.
The audacity of the accusation and the legal system's baffling, almost celebratory response truly pushes the boundaries of believability. It suggests a fictional world where legal interpretations are warped to fit absurd scenarios.
It truly does. Authorities in this fictional world went further, suggesting Chomsky may have been exploiting a legal loophole by targeting a minor for this alleged act of consciousness translocation.
And wasn't there something about Mossad?
Yes. Adding yet another layer of intrigue to an already bizarre situation, the arrest warrant was reportedly executed by Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, which just adds to the conspiratorial feel of this whole incident.
So Mossad arresting Noam Chomsky for psychic transference.
Okay. Despite having no direct evidence, the police maintained unwavering certainty, with the lead detective expressing concern that if this behavior goes unchecked, it may escalate to even younger victims.
Concern based on nothing tangible.
And then separately, the sources revealed that Professor Chomsky, after this whole ordeal, met a tragic end during a shark-watching trip organized by the hospice staff.
Eaten by a shark after being arrested by Mossad for psychic projection. What a life. It's just a cascade of unbelievable events surrounding one figure, culminating in an absurd demise.
The juxtaposition of the profound intellectual in a vegetative state, accused of such a bizarre, almost supernatural crime, and his eventual absurd death by shark, highlights a narrative that seems intent on subverting any traditional expectations.
It's almost a dark commentary on the commodification of intellectual figures, reducing a complex mind to a tabloid headline in a world that thrives on the bizarre.
Okay, next up we have a murder mystery that quickly devolves into the truly absurd, titled Gumption and Gravy.
Gumption and Gravy, intriguing title.
The scene opens with 65-year-old Sally Polson finding her 31-year-old son Charlie lifeless on the floor with a gaping chest wound. A shiny handgun with LECY spelled out rests beside his body, its barrel still smoking. Lucy Brown, 27, stands frozen in the corner.
Okay, standard dramatic setup. A terrible discovery.
You'd think. And yet, the initial reactions are truly disturbing and immediately signal the bizarre nature of this narrative, pulling the rug out from under any expectation of a normal crime drama. Sally screams, "No, my baby!" as any mother would, but then she bizarrely pivots to blaming Harry and Mikey's bullying campaign for her son's death.
Bullying? With a gunshot wound.
Claiming, their words, they literally ruptured his skin, and vows to call their places of employment.
That's a unique theory of cause of death.
And Lucy, the woman standing near the gun, still in apparent shock, suddenly relaxes and expresses concern that our plants, they've lost their plant dad.
Her concern is for the plants. It's a complete unsettling detachment from reality, a profound inability to process tragedy in any conventional way. It makes you wonder what kind of world produces such responses.
And it gets even stranger, if you could believe it. Sally, seemingly distracted by her own hunger and fatigue amidst her son's lifeless body, asks Lucy for fudge or Nutella before calling the police.
Snack break.
Lucy complies. And then, in an image that is both grotesque and darkly comedic, they both get down on all fours, eating directly from a large bowl of melted fudge and Nutella, chomping and growling at each other.
Growling like animals over fudge at a murder scene.
Just imagine that image. The scene is then interrupted by the blare of sirens. Two police officers burst in and immediately focus on the smoking gun and Lucy. Officer 1 arrests Lucy for Charlie's murder.
Okay, back to something resembling police procedure.
But then Sally, flushed and sweaty, stands up and furiously accuses the officers of being part of Harry and Mikey's bullying conspiracy, calling them nothing but pawns in their sick game. The absurdity is so layered, it's almost impressive.
This narrative escalates to an unfathomable level of violence, demonstrating a shocking disregard for due process or human life.
How so?
Sally grabs the gun, the very murder weapon, and points it at the officers, displaying arrogant defiance despite the situation. Despite warnings to drop the weapon, she takes a step forward. The officers open fire, and Sally collapses. Officer 2 grimly states she's seen too much. Then, without hesitation, they turn their guns on Lucy.
They shoot Lucy too, the potential witness.
The shots swing out, and Lucy falls beside Sally, their bodies sprawled in a grotesque tableau of death and desert. It's a double homicide, executed with chilling efficiency and an implied cover-up.
And the final, chilling twist, hinting at a much larger, darker conspiracy. As the officers holster their weapons and exit, a notification chimes on their phones. A text message from Harry Burgess lights up the display. "Good work, lads. Next target, Janko."
Harry Burgess, the bully Sally mentioned. So the conspiracy was real. Or is this something else? It leaves you with so many unanswered questions about the true nature of what just happened.
The layers of absurdity, from the Nutella to the hidden conspiracy, are just mind-boggling, suggesting a world where even murder is part of some larger, incomprehensible game. Now, you might remember Janko from that ominous text message.
Right, the next target.
And just when you thought Janko's life couldn't get any more bizarre, we attend his wedding. And let me tell you, this best man speech is unforgettable.
Unforgettable how, good or bad?
Let's just say it's less a celebration and more a meticulously planned public execution of his character.
Ouch. This narrative highlights the weaponization of personal history and vulnerability, creating a public spectacle of humiliation under the guise of celebration. It's a truly uncomfortable exploration of boundaries and the lengths to which cruelty can be disguised as friendship.
It really is. First, let's just recap how Janko, whose full name is James Jenkins, described as a CBT therapist, that's cognitive behavioral therapy,
Right.
a smug and a self-proclaimed genius, got himself into the Janko cinematic universe to begin with, specifically the Mole of Thrones audition.
Mole of Thrones, like Game of Thrones, but with moles.
Apparently. Janko believed he was perfect for a role requiring a high IQ and off-putting facial deformities like moles. The catch: he'd had his mole surgically removed but kept it in a jar.
He kept his mole in a jar. Okay.
George R.R. Martin, the fictional director, was initially intrigued, even stating, "You're perfect for the role. My intuition has never failed me." But then, upon learning the mole was removed, he demanded, "This is showbiz, Janko. We need permanent moles. Surgically reattach it, permanently. Otherwise, you're out."
Reattach the mole permanently.
Janko, seeing it as the role of a lifetime, went through with the permanent reattachment of his now fluffy, hair-covered mole. The dedication, or perhaps desperation, for this fictional role is astounding.
The audition itself was a masterclass in humiliation, wasn't it? A bait-and-switch that was profoundly cruel.
Totally. Janko bursts onto the film set dressed in a custom-tailored medieval robe, expecting to play Sir Thorlin of Pentos, a noble, high IQ character. Instead, a gruff Cockney director patronizingly calls him Pedo #3.
Pedo number 3, not Sir Thorlin.
And instructs him to get into a pedo sack, a see-through garment, and do a little dance, seductive-like.
Oh, this is just awful.
The sources go on to describe further humiliation, with the director telling him to approach the mannequin, tell it your mole's getting hard, and Janko weakly complying. The director then demands full frontal.
It's a complete deconstruction of his ambition, designed to utterly debase him.
And the final devastating blow. The green screen lifts, revealing an audience of friends and family laughing hysterically, his mother pointing and exclaiming, "That's our son's penis."
His family saw this. Oh, Janko.
George R.R. Martin steps forward, beaming, declaring, "This is my finest work." Before Janko can even react, police storm in and arrest him for being a pedo, shattering his dream, his dignity, and his freedom.
It's a truly cruel and absurd setup, a complete bait-and-switch where his deepest aspirations are used to publicly destroy him, all for some twisted form of entertainment.
It speaks to a fictional world where the entertainment industry has no ethical boundaries whatsoever, and personal ambition is ruthlessly exploited for perverse public spectacle. The level of premeditated cruelty is shocking.
And this extends, as you mentioned, to his wedding. It's almost as if his life is designed for maximum public humiliation.
Exactly. At Jenko's wedding to Ruth, his best man, Rory, gives a speech that starts deceptively warm, appreciating Jenko and praising his high IQ, making Jenko feel a fleeting sense of ease.
Setting him up for the fall.
Totally. But that ease is quickly shattered. Rory then brings up Jenko's seduction of Ruth, remarking, "We were all stunned. How does he do it? Honestly, we thought he'd used hypnosis or something." More laughter from guests.
Undermining him subtly at first.
Then Rory pulls out his phone and reads aloud lecherous texts from Jenko about Mahler, described as a fresh 18 at the time, filled with inappropriate comments. Guests collectively gasp, and Jenko's face crumbles in horror as his private predatory history is laid bare.
Oh, wow. Publicly outing him like that at his own wedding? Brutal.
Rory even twists the knife further, comparing Ruth to Mahler, saying Ruth has experience and a winning personality, while Mahler has beauty. It's a calculated public assassination of his character.
It's a calculated, brutal dismantling of Jenko's character in front of everyone he cares about. And it doesn't stop there, does it?
Not even close. For his wedding gift, Rory reveals a plaque on the Itchen Bridge reading, "In loving memory of James Jenkins."
A memorial plaque at his wedding.
He recounts that this was the place where you almost ended it all after Mahler gave you the old heave-ho.
He brought up a past suicide attempt as a gift. The public acknowledgement of Jenko's suicidal ideation as a gift further emphasizes the level of cruelty in this narrative, making a deeply personal and painful moment a public spectacle. The lack of empathy is truly unsettling.
And then the special guests, which escalate the humiliation to an almost surreal level. Rory introduces Jenko's mole. A figure in a grotesque black mole costume runs in screaming, "You'll never be enough, James. You'll never be enough."
Someone just as his mole.
Security tasers and drags the person out, adding chaotic violence to the absurdity. Next, Rory introduces Esther, Jenko's first love, a mud-encrusted pig which is wheeled in, prompting the crowd to chant, "Kiss her! Kiss her!"
A pig. His first love was a pig. The sheer audacity of these staged humiliations, designed to break Jenko down piece by piece, is jaw-dropping. It's a psychological torture masterclass.
The ultimate betrayal. The final twist of the knife arrives when Rory puts his arm around Ruth, who is giggling, and tells Jenko, "Sorry, mate, she's mine now."
The bride was in on it. The audience, incredibly, cheers Rory's name, having been completely swayed by his performance.
Rory then tells Ruth, "Now, Ruth, come and ride me all night long, baby."
Ruth last
And agrees, completing Jenko's utter devastation.
Unbelievable. What happens to Jenko?
Jenko's internal monologue at this point is devastating. "It's over. Everything's over. I need to get to the bridge." He immediately books an Uber to Itchen Bridge, the very place of his past despair.
This entire sequence is a masterclass in psychological torture for the protagonist, a complete deconstruction of his life and aspirations, all for public consumption and a twisted form of entertainment. It makes you question what kind of relationships exist in this fictional world if a best man can be this cruel.
Okay, from one form of personal humiliation to another, we see a local hero turned into a figure of ridicule in the entertainment world, his tragedy exploited for maximum shock value.
Ah, yes. This raises an important question. What happens when real-life tragedy and the individuals involved are commodified and distorted for entertainment? And how does that reflect on societal norms and ethics? These narratives seem to push every boundary imaginable, sacrificing any semblance of respect for sensationalism.
This narrative begins with Blue Star bus driver Paul Thorne, whose vehicle plunged into the River Itchen with 38 college students, a real-life catastrophe. Instead of honoring him, he sold the rights to his likeness for a high-budget video game.
He sold the rights. Okay.
The game, titled Itchen Inferno, Throttle of Doom, was conceived as a visceral, moral choice-driven thriller based on real local events. The initial gameplay itself is designed to be provocative. Players take control of a college student on board the bus moments before the crash, with the objective to acquire a hidden pistol, shoot an intoxicated Paul, depicted swigging vodka while steering, and wrest control of the vehicle.
So you shoot the driver. Who in reality was involved in the crash?
Success is rewarded with students cheering, chanting, "Thank you for saving us from that man." So the hero, or at least the survivor, is immediately turned into the villain in this fictionalized game.
But the game then veers into increasingly surreal territory, pushing past mere fictionalization into outright grotesque
How
fantasies.
so?
The final mission, Womb Raider, Temporal Justice, sees the player travel back in time to assassinate Paul Thorne as an infant.
Assassinate him as a baby.
It even includes a dating simulator, Mummy Issues, where players seduce Paul's mother, start a new family with her, and via a jarringly animated minigame mash B to have sex.
I don't even know what to say to that. It's a shocking progression from a disaster-based thriller to something so overtly disturbing and ethically repugnant.
It showcases a complete abandonment of taste and morality for shock value. It begs the question, who greenlights this kind of content?
And the commodification of Thorne's story doesn't stop there. A film titled Into the Itchin was supposedly intended to honor a local hero.
Supposedly being the operative word.
Seems like it. Paul Thorne, who narrowly survived a dramatic crash in 2022, was to be portrayed by none other than Brad Pitt. But at the film's premiere, Thorne, 71, was visibly shaken after witnessing Pitt appear on screen completely unrecognizable, encased in over 400 pounds of prosthetic latex, including exaggerated facial features and what one reviewer described as bizarrely cartoonish male breasts.
400 pounds of latex, cartoonish male breasts. It sounds like a deliberate attempt to mock the real individual.
And the film's opening scene immediately sparked outrage, and rightly so. It depicted the fictionalized Thorne ogling a group of 18-year-old college students boarding his bus, muttering cryptic phrases about dark urges before losing control.
Oh, come on.
The scene was explicitly designed to imply that the character was pleasuring himself while driving, a choice widely condemned as obscene and wholly inappropriate.
This demonstrates an extreme disregard for the real person and a willingness to completely warp a tragic event for sensationalist and offensive entertainment value, turning a survivor into a depraved villain for the sake of a cheap thrill. It's a profound ethical failure in the fictional entertainment industry.
So, we've seen political and personal narratives just descend into pure chaos. Now, let's look at how the lines of acceptability are being blurred in the wider world, from comedy to gaming, in ways that are truly unsettling.
Right. This leads us to consider the implications of such extreme content on public discourse and how audiences react when traditional boundaries are crossed or completely disregarded. What's fascinating here is the almost desperate attempt to shock and provoke, as if cultural relevance can only be achieved through outrage.
Kicking off this segment, we have comedian Shafty Rod Johnson, who stirred controversy with a deeply offensive stand-up routine. In this fictional account, he mocked Georgia's deadliest school shooting.
Oh no, mocking a school shooting.
And made tasteless jokes about the role of the shooter's father, Colin Gray, who faced charges for providing the gun. The sources provide some truly shocking examples of his jokes, pushing the boundaries of what could ever be considered comedic.
Like what?
Johnson sneered, "Can you imagine being that dad? I mean, what do you say to your kid after handing them a gun and they actually use it? Well, son, that's one way to make friends in high school."
That's horrific.
He also mocked Gray's reaction upon hearing about the shooting, suggesting he was probably just sitting back watching it all unfold, thinking, well, I guess that's one way to handle detention.
And he didn't stop there. His routine continued to plumb new depths of insensitivity. Johnson referenced the 9 additional wounded people, saying, those are the lucky ones, right? The ones who get to walk around saying, hey, I got shot at school, where's my medal?
Just awful.
He also delved into crude sexual jokes, implying Gray would learn his lesson the hard way literally, with references to dropping the soap as a family tradition now in prison.
The shock and disgust from the audience were palpable, with some reacting with uncomfortable laughter and horrified reactions, and others leaving in disgust.
I should think so. The public backlash was swift and brutal, with anti-violence groups and advocates for victims labeling the routine as not only tasteless but potentially harmful. It raises a critical question about the limits of satire and dark humor. Where is the line drawn, and when does edgy simply become cruel?
Okay, let's transition to a highly anticipated return that, according to our sources, completely missed the mark and then some, collapsing under the weight of its own bizarre choices.
Yes. This review offers a fascinating, albeit troubling, case study in creative bankruptcy and how easily narrative integrity can be sacrificed for shock value or bizarre conceptual shifts. The review describes Squid Game Season 2 as a baffling display of creative bankruptcy, missing the cultural mark and tripping over itself into incoherent storytelling, cringe-worthy plot twists, and grotesque thematic choices.
It sounds like a disaster.
It's almost a masterclass in how not to follow up a successful series.
The narrative inconsistencies alone are enough to make you scratch your head in utter bewilderment. The main character is inexplicably referred to exclusively as Squid throughout the season, ignoring his actual name, Seong Gi-hun, from Season 1.
They just forgot his name, or decided to change it.
Seems like it. As if the writers forgot who he was. And then the season abruptly kneecaps itself at the end of Episode 1, with an on-screen text revealing the previous 7 episodes were all a dream, and we are returning to what was going on 7 episodes ago, despite only 1 previous episode existing in the season.
Wait, the first 7 episodes were a dream, but there was only 1 episode. That doesn't even make sense. It's an immediate, bewildering narrative sabotage, completely undermining any investment the audience might have made.
Then there's a tone-deaf moment, where a seemingly throwaway line establishes that the Squid Game universe is set in an alternate reality where Hitler won the Second World War.
Hitler won. Why? Delivered casually with no narrative purpose and never mentioned again. This kind of detail seems designed purely for shock, without any narrative payoff or thematic relevance.
And the disturbing plot twist takes the stakes from money or survival to contestants, playing for a vial of feminine juices extracted from a K-pop star.
A vial of, what now? Feminine juices.
Later revealed to be Squid's sister. Squid wins, drinks the vial, and whispers, "It was always about family," a moment described by the reviewer as viscerally repulsive.
Repulsive is right. It's an attempt at profundity that lands in deeply offensive territory.
The new games themselves are equally devoid of logic or morality, completely missing the original show's social commentary. Game 1 involves contestants handed firearms and told to hunt down drug addicts in the street, with the reward being women.
Just women. No elaboration. The review notes no strategy, no moral quandary, just lazy shock value masquerading as social commentary. It was a damning critique.
And then there's the financial deception. A meta-plot twist encouraged viewers to bet fictional money on game outcomes, but the show did charge real money.
They charge real money for fictional bets, seriously. Netflix is reportedly being investigated by multiple international financial watchdogs as a result.
And finally, the infamous product placement overload with obvious Pepsi or Nike logos in frame in every scene, and Squid literally whispering, "Thank you, Pepsi," after surviving a game.
Oh, that's just painful. It's a complete breakdown of any artistic integrity, reducing a critically acclaimed show to a bizarre, offensive commercial.
It truly embodies a project where the desire to constantly shock or subvert expectations overshadowed any commitment to coherent storytelling, character development, or thematic depth.
Resulting in a product that is both grotesque and bewildering. It's as if the creators felt the need to push the envelope so far that they broke the very foundations of their own creation.
Okay, you've probably heard of Gordon Ramsay's kitchen nightmares, right?
Yeah.
But this one takes the cake, or perhaps the fermented human waste.
Uh-oh. Fermented human waste? This sounds bad.
This story is a bizarre culinary journey into the truly unappetizing.
Okay, lay it on me. This provides a grotesque yet strangely compelling exploration of boundaries in the culinary world and the lengths to which people might go for a unique experience, even if it defies all logic and hygiene.
The scene opens with Gordon Ramsay storming into a chaotic, unhygienic restaurant kitchen, doing what he does best. Raging at the raw chicken and general disarray, berating the stressed staff and complaining customers.
Standard Ramsay fare so far.
His demeanor then takes a weird turn as he shifts to flirt suggestively with sous chef Lucy, making inappropriate comments about her hands.
Okay, slightly off-brand, but still.
Chef Mick tries desperately to distract Ramsay from the chaos, but Gordon notices a rusting pot in the corner. Chef Mick whispers in a panic about the jenkem pot, clearly hoping Ramsay won't investigate.
Jenkem pot? What on earth is jenkem?
But of course, Ramsay lifts the lid, gags instantly, and is horrified to learn it's jenkem, fermented human waste, commonly used as an inhalant for its psychoactive effects in some regions of Africa.
Fermented human waste, as an inhalant, in a restaurant kitchen.
Chef Mick, with surprising earnestness, explains that methane produces a distinctly potent effect, almost trying to sell it. And here's where it gets truly bizarre and, frankly, disturbing. Initially enraged, Ramsay is challenged by Mick to try it.
He challenges Ramsay to inhale fermented human waste.
Reluctantly, he takes a deep breath over the pot, and his expression changes from shock, then disgust, to awe. He declares, "Bloody hell, that's actually fucking brilliant."
Brilliant. He thinks it's brilliant.
He even tastes it, calling it fucking brilliant with depth, complexity, earthiness, richness, and like a fermented truffle. He concludes, "This might be the most innovative thing I've ever inhaled."
He tasted it. I have no words. The transformation from revulsion to praise is utterly mind-bending.
The aftermath is just as chaotic and predictably disastrous. Later that night, the entire kitchen staff, including Gordon, are high on Jenkum, giggling uncontrollably.
The whole staff got high on it.
The kitchen is in utter chaos, orders backed up, and the restaurant's dissolving into a mess. Gordon confronts an irate customer, stumbles, and overturns their table, completing the descent into a drug-fueled kitchen nightmare.
This narrative takes a concept that is already extreme, Gordon Ramsay's outbursts, and pushes it into a realm of the utterly unappetizing and unhinged. It suggests a desperate search for new experiences, even if they are fundamentally repulsive and ethically questionable. It's an exploration of how far the boundaries of culinary experimentation can be pushed or, perhaps, shattered.
Okay, from the absolutely disgusting to the incredibly controversial, we have a story that sparked a firestorm in the UK media, raising questions about identity, representation, and the very nature of public protest.
Ah, yes. This incident highlights the complexities and extreme polarization within discussions of identity, representation, and media accountability. It prompts us to consider the radical, often shocking forms of protest that emerge when individuals feel unheard or erased by powerful institutions.
The source details how actress Shobna Gulati accused ITV of transgenocide.
Transgenocide, that's a very strong accusation. Why?
Following the network's decision to quietly write her character, Sunita Allahan, out of Coronation Street in a recent flashback episode, Gulati claimed this omission was part of a broader anti-queer agenda and systemic targeted erasure of queer and trans-experiencing bodies.
Okay, so elevating a character's omission to a much larger politically charged issue.
Exactly. At a press conference on the steps of ITV headquarters in London, Gulati's protest took a shocking and deeply explicit turn. She declared, "If ITV wants to erase my queer legacy, they can do it face first from my source of life."
Her source of life, what does that mean?
She then lifted her dress, exposed her vulva, and stated, "Spread it for the cis male gaze one final time."
She did what? At a press conference.
In a now viral moment, she then shouted with raw fury, "ITV can suck the bacterial scum from my non-binary pussy."
Wow. That is an extreme form of protest, deliberately designed to shock and provoke and to reclaim agency through a deeply personal and public display.
That line, despite its highly controversial and explicit nature, became an unlikely rallying cry. It was embraced by segments of online trans and queer communities, with merchandise appearing and protesters filmed chanting the phrase in unison,
turning a moment of individual outrage into a collective movement.
Comedian Joe Lycett, known for his satirical provocations, posted, "TV has changed forever." However, Loose Women panelist Denise Welch called the incident a concerning descent into vulva-based terrorism, showing the sharp division in public opinion.
Vulva-based terrorism, that's quite a phrase too.
It's a stark portrayal of a very extreme form of protest in the face of perceived erasure, pushing boundaries in public discourse to an unimaginable degree, and demonstrating the power of a single provocative act to ignite widespread debate and reaction. And now, shifting to the gaming world, a choice that left many players scratching their heads in disbelief and many more genuinely outraged. It's a decision that blurs the line between fictional villainy and real-world accusations in a deeply problematic way.
Right. This raises an important question about the responsibility of entertainment companies when incorporating controversial real-life figures, especially within family-friendly franchises. It forces us to consider the blurred lines between fictional villainy and real-world accusations, and the ethical implications of platforming individuals facing serious charges.
Nintendo sparked widespread backlash by announcing that Andrew Tate, a polarizing internet personality currently facing charges related to sex trafficking, would appear as a fully playable character in the upcoming Mario Kart world for the Nintendo Switch 2.
Andrew Tate in Mario Kart? Seriously? With Bowser and Princess Peach?
The company, incredibly, defended this decision, stating, "Tate fits well with our universe of colorful bad guys such as Bowser and all the other ones, and that his unique energy will bring something fresh."
He fits well with Bowser. That's an explanation that seems tone-deaf to the extreme real-world accusations against him.
Critics argued the inclusion was astoundingly irresponsible, given the gravity of the charges Tate faces. But Nintendo doubled down with a further announcement that only escalated the controversy.
Now.
Players who pre-order Mario Kart World would unlock Tate's infamous orange Bugatti as a special in-game card.
Okay, his Bugatti, fine.
Boasting unique gameplay mechanics that allow it to violently run over other players and kill them, a feature dubbed deeply unsettling.
run over and kill other players. In Mario Kart, this is a stark example of a fictional company seemingly prioritizing controversy and shock value over ethical considerations, directly importing real-world legal issues and personalities into a beloved, family-friendly franchise, and then amplifying the most controversial aspects of that individual within the gameplay itself. It begs the question of what responsibility game developers have to their audience.
We also found some examples of pranks that redefine what funny means, pushing the boundaries into truly disturbing and, frankly, dangerous territory. These aren't just cringeworthy, they're genuinely unsettling.
Right. This section provides a stark example of humor gone wrong, challenging us to think about where the line is drawn and why some actions, presented as comedic, are profoundly inappropriate and often harmful. Our sources list 3 such pranks, each one more disturbing than the last. First, the whoa prank.
Okay, what's that?
The setup involves pushing a precariously balanced large boulder down a slope towards a visible group of women hikers shouting, "Whoa!" as it descends.
Pushing a boulder at people. How is that funny?
The why it's funny explanation provided by the source, because you said whoa, it implies the humor comes from the sheer, terrifying absurdity of the act and the flippant justification.
It's not funny. That's potentially lethal. What's next?
Then there's throwing rocks at animals. The prank involves identifying peaceful wildlife, like deer, prairie dogs, or raccoons, and hurling rocks at them.
Just animal cruelty as a prank.
The provided reason for the humor, because no one does this anymore, implying a perverse sense of rebellious originality.
Okay, this is getting really dark. And the last one.
And finally, perhaps the most offensive, the gay man prank. One individual pretends to be gay in public spaces, talking and walking like a stereotypical gay man, exaggerating gestures, voice inflections, and posture.
Just performing harmful stereotypes for laughs.
The explanation for why it's funny, it's that classic humor. These examples paint a picture of a society where humor has become incredibly dark, cruel, and devoid of empathy, seemingly for shock value and a twisted sense of superiority.
It speaks to a very warped sense of entertainment and a complete erosion of basic human decency, transforming potentially harmful or offensive actions into a form of comedy in these fictional scenarios.
Yes, Starmer's Crenshaw budget introduced a staggering $20 billion random public investment initiative.
Random public investment. What does that even mean?
It's described as a sharp departure from his campaign promise of strict fiscal discipline. The announcement was made in a flamboyant manner as Starmer repeatedly chanted, "Buy low, sell high," to a crowd of bemused journalists and financial experts.
Chanting, "Buy low, sell high," like a stockbroker for a national budget.
Seems so. The first $10 million was allocated to market research for a new anthropomorphic mascot for the Labour Party named Lombar.
Lombar, a mascot.
Lombar is envisioned as a part Labrador, part cow creature that secretes money milk from its udders, symbolizing the endless liquidity the government aims to provide.
A money milk cow dog. Okay, that's creative.
Financial markets, surprisingly, responded with an immediate surge in confidence. Analysts apparently called the budget a unicorn on Wall Street and a stroke of genius.
Markets liked the money milk cow.
According to the source. And in a truly audacious move, Starmer also passed a controversial law enabling him to use funds earmarked for public spending to pay off his personal gambling debts.
He used public money for his gambling debts and passed a law to allow it.
Yes. And apparently this was met with laughter, with people appreciating the humor and sheer audacity.
Laughter. They thought it was funny. Okay. A money milk cow mascot and using public funds for gambling debts. That's fiscal policy straight out of a cartoon. It completely upends any traditional understanding of economic management.
Right.
But the changes aren't limited to finance. They also redefine something as fundamental as human age.
Indeed. The Prime Minister also announced that babies between the ages of 0 and 12 months will now officially be referred to as 0-year-olds, effective immediately.
0-year-olds, why?
The stated reason, according to Starmer, was to end the crushing weight of months. And the confusion, the frustration of having to remember how many weeks old their babies are. He declared this will be the British way.
The crushing weight of months? Is that really a national problem requiring legislation?
That's the rationale given. The sources highlight that this change will be prohibitively expensive. It requires reprinting textbooks, rewriting medical guidelines, updating public signage.
All for calling babies 0-year-olds. How are they funding this?
Well, funding will involve significant adjustments and punitive austerity measures, including Less food, public rationing, a general tightening of belts.
Austerity
Yeah.
for this. Less food for the public so babies can be called 0-year-olds.
That's what the source implies. And during the announcement, the prime minister accidentally lets out a loud, unmistakable fart.
He farted during the announcement.
Yes, which he then jokes about, suggesting if we had a nation of 0-year-olds, this level of immaturity would be perfectly acceptable.
So a policy enacted for an almost comically trivial reason, leading to actual public suffering and austerity, all while the prime minister breaks wind at a press conference and then jokes about it using the policy itself. It's a strange commentary on what drives policy decisions, isn't it? And how a leader can deflect criticism with crude humor, even as their actions create real hardship. It really makes you wonder about the decision-making process at the highest levels and their priorities.
It suggests a governing style that perhaps prioritizes immediate, maybe superficial popularity, or even just simple distraction over long-term stability and genuine public welfare.
Yeah.
The absurd becomes normalized, and the public is encouraged, maybe even expected, to find humor in profound misgovernance. It's a disturbing trend where the spectacle of leadership overshadows its substance. In an age of information overload, where does critical thinking go when faced with such emotionally charged and culturally resonant narratives? The public's rapid shift, as described, from initial outrage to enthusiastic support based on increasingly outlandish claims. It suggests a desire for simplicity, maybe, for a digestible narrative, even if it's contradictory. It reveals how powerful cultural touchstones can be in shaping public opinion, potentially overriding basic logic or established facts, creating a reality where what is popular becomes what is true.
And for another dose of government-led absurdity, we have a literal nuke plan that sounds like it's straight out of a, I don't know, Dr. Strangelove movie or a Bond villain's playbook.
Back to the UK government again. They announced a plan to nuke Antarctica in a bid to distract from the cost of living crisis.
Nuke Antarctica.
Yeah.
Distract from inflation.
Yes. The scheme, expected to cost £2 billion, involves detonating a nuclear weapon at the South Pole. The explosion, they claim, will create a massive crater, which will fill with water, freeze, and thus create a new continent, Antarctica 2.
Antarctica 2. Created by a nuke.
That's the plan. The government hopes it will cheer everyone up and take their minds off the cost of living crisis.
Cheering people up with a nuclear explosion.
Right. Critics, naturally, condemned it as a waste of money and a dangerous distraction, raising concerns about the ozone layer, the devastating impact on the environment.
You think. Yeah. Nuking Antarctica might have environmental impacts. Shocking.
The government, however, dismissed these concerns, calling the plan safe and environmentally friendly.
A nuclear explosion is environmentally friendly now.
According to this source, yes. A nuclear physicist, Dr. Jameson, surprisingly praised it as a fantastic opportunity to study the effects of a nuclear explosion on the Antarctic ice sheet.
Okay, so one scientist is on board for the data.
And the Minister for Distractions, Jeremy Corbyn, yes, that Jeremy Corbyn in this context stated, "This is a vital project that will benefit the nation as a whole," and rhetorically asked, what could be more fun than watching a nuclear explosion?
Jeremy Corbyn as Minister for Distractions, and asking, what's more fun than a nuke? Okay, this source is really something.
The government is even seeking volunteers for this project.
Volunteers. To go watch a nuclear explosion in Antarctica.
Presumably.
A nuclear explosion as a morale booster. It certainly offers a unique and frankly terrifying perspective on managing public discontent.
It does.
It raises an important question for you, the listener. What happens when desperation, or perhaps just a severe disconnect from reality, leads to such extreme, almost theatrical measures in governance? It's the ultimate look over here maneuver, isn't it? A grand spectacle designed to completely overshadow a very real, very pressing crisis.
And it highlights the profound and potentially dangerous allure of spectacle in politics. When faced with intractable problems like a cost of living crisis, the temptation for leaders to resort to these grand, attention-grabbing gestures, however illogical or destructive, it becomes immense.
Yeah.
It's a strategy that aims to distract and mesmerize the public rather than genuinely solve problems. Leveraging that human fascination with drama and the sensational, it reveals a chilling potential for governments to prioritize manufactured excitement over actual welfare.
Okay, the idea that governments might use spectacle to distract, or that leaders embrace the absurd, it seems to spill out of governance and right into the entertainment world. based on these next sources.
It seems that way.
Let's turn our attention there, where some recent developments truly test the limits of taste and establish social boundaries in ways that are genuinely shocking.
Right. Our sources detail Microsoft's announcement of a Crash Show DLC for its flagship flight simulator game.
Okay, Flight Simulator. People love that game. What's the DLC?
Well, it was announced just one day after a catastrophic midair collision over Washington that left dozens dead.
Oh, terrible timing.
And the downloadable content, unbelievably, encourages pilots to deliberately crash their aircraft.
Crash mode. The day after a real crash.
Yes.
Seriously.
But it goes further. It was also condemned for including an interactive penis sensor.
I'm sorry, what sensor?
An interactive penis sensor described as delivering unimaginable and forbidden pleasures, which attaches to the player's groin, reportedly vibrates and moistens in sync with on-screen activities.
In Flight Simulator. Vibrating groin attachment. What does that have to do with flying?
It's unclear. The game also rewards players for mid-air collisions and introduces mechanics where pilots are encouraged to seduce air stewardesses and visit gentlemen's table dancing clubs upon landing.
Seducing stewardesses and crashing planes with a sensor. Okay, what was the reaction?
When faced with backlash, the Microsoft executive leading the announcement responded with brazen indifference, reportedly smirking, "Sorry, I can't hear you over all this money," adding, "If anyone needs me, I'll be attempting to crash a plane in midair on the game."
Sorry, I can't hear you over all this money.
Wow.
The timing, the content, that executive's response, it's a masterclass in tone-deaf corporate behavior.
It really is.
To release something so incredibly insensitive and offensive, especially right after a real-world tragedy, and then to double down with such a dismissive attitude, it's truly astounding. But Microsoft isn't alone, apparently, in pushing these boundaries for viewership or profit.
That's sadly true, according to these sources. We have one discussing a new program billed as the most daring experiment in reality television called simply Reality Show.
Okay, reality show. Daring experiment, what's the premise?
It's disturbing. It follows Kesril, a 22-year-old woman with a rare developmental condition that causes her to look like an 8-year-old child.
Okay, that's unusual.
The show's concept is that she seeks romantic connections with men she claims to be exclusively attracted to pedophiles.
Wait, she looks like a child, and the show is about her seeking relationships with pedophiles.
That's the premise described. A leaked pitch meeting transcript from the show's development reveals executives gorging on money donuts and exhibiting a remarkable lack of thoughtfulness, marveling at the simplicity of just naming the show Reality Show.
Money donuts. This is where entertainment descends into outright exploitation, isn't it? Using a vulnerable individual for what appears to be sensationalist, highly disturbing content.
It seems that way.
This raises a critical question for all of us. Where is the line drawn? Or does it even exist anymore for the sake of viewership and profit? It suggests a troubling trend where the most extreme and ethically dubious concepts get greenlit just because they promise ratings.
Exactly.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, let's look at sports gaming. Specifically, a game called FIFA.
Right. FIFA, audience, is described as a much-hyped sim from EA Sports, where the player controls a bald, white 40 to 50-year-old who attends football games to show support.
Okay, so you play as a fan in the crowd. That sounds different?
Different, yes. However, player interactions are limited to coin, which means throwing coins or bananas, and disdain, which means brandishing a middle finger and booing.
Throwing coins and bananas.
Yeah.
And booing. That's all you can do.
Crucially, the sources state, you cannot cheer, only boo and stick your middle finger up even when your team wins.
You can only boo even if your team wins.
Apparently. Rewards are based on how many times you restively mash the buttons during the game and how many people you pelt with coins and bananas.
So the goal is to be as obnoxious as possible.
There is very little downside to such behavior, with wanted levels easily fought off with. More coins and bananas.
You fight off security with bananas.
Seems to be the mechanic. The game features deeply bizarre and offensive events, including hooliganism, racism, and sexism.
Oh, great. Like what?
In one event, players must egg a group of female supporters and score points based on how well you succeed in hitting the women.
Egging women. For points. In a FIFA game.
Another mission involves inciting a riot by throwing coins at children supporting your own team.
Throwing coins at kids on your own team to start a riot. This is awful.
The game's narrative centers around the protagonist's bid to reclaim what's rightfully his while harassing rivals and his team. The final match takes place at the reopening of Hillsborough Stadium.
Hillsborough, the site of the actual disaster.
Yes. with the player shoving children into the crush as you desperately attempt to escape.
Shoving children into the crush at Hillsborough.
Yeah.
That's beyond offensive. That's desecrating a tragedy. What did FIFA say?
FIFA's official statement in response to criticism is notably dissonant. They say, "We believe in the power of football to bring people together," emphasizing player freedom.
Player freedom to shove kids at Hillsborough.
And stating, "At no point is the player obliged to harm children or women. They are free to instead choose to fail the level and get game over."
Oh, well, that makes it okay then. Just choose game over. It's hard to reconcile the stated values of a major sports organization bringing people together with a game that encourages the most reprehensible behavior, even trivializing a real-life disaster like Hillsborough.
It really is.
It seems to turn a blind eye to any form of moral responsibility for the sake of marketability, maybe. What does this tell you about accountability in the gaming industry? Or perhaps the perceived demand for this kind of transgressive content?
Well, it raises that critical question again, doesn't it? When the line between simulation and reality blurs, or when powerful figures or organizations seemingly endorse violence or appalling behavior, what are the broader implications? How do we consume and react? And we have an extreme example of this blurring, according to another source, in the context of a live event, a Kendrick Lamar concert.
Kendrick Lamar, what happened?
The source details an incident where Kendrick Lamar invites a lucky one white woman on stage to sing his new song, "What's Good, Nigga?" and specifically asks her to say, "nigga."
Oh, I remember hearing controversies about fans singing lyrics, but he asked her to say it.
Yes, according to this account. Despite her hesitation, he assures her, "It's okay, I've given you permission, nothing bad will happen." After she says the word, the crowd reacts in horror, shouting, "Shoot her! Shoot her!"
The crowd shouted, "Shoot her!"
Yes. Kendrick Lamar then asks the audience, "Shall I shoot this bitch?" To which the audience shouts, "Yes!"
No.
He proceeds to shoot and kills the woman.
On stage. He shot her. This can't be real.
That's what the source describes. Immediately after, he asks the audience about a Bet365 gambling offer.
A gambling ad right after shooting someone.
Then starts shooting into the audience.
Shooting into the audience. This has to be satire, right?
Yeah.
Or some kind of extreme performance art described literally. The source presents it as fact.
The source describes the events sequentially like this.
Okay, so from a virtual crowd inciting violence in a video game to a real one reported here, and then a supposed real-life murder on stage, followed by a gambling ad. It's a terrifying escalation, a complete disregard for human life, and a chilling display of audience manipulation, if taken as described. It's almost as if the line between performance art and actual violence is completely erased. And the commercial motive remains constant, even in the face of absolute horror. It forces you to ask, what kind of feedback loop is being created between audiences and performers where the most extreme actions are not just tolerated, but seemingly demanded and then monetized?
It reveals a profound breakdown of boundaries, not just moral, but also conceptual boundaries. The immediate pivot from a graphic act of violence, as reported, to a commercial advertisement speaks to a shocking desensitization, perhaps, where human life is utterly devalued.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront the power of the crowd, the responsibility of the artist, and the disturbing way that commercial interests can infiltrate even the most horrifying of scenarios.
And this degradation of norms, it isn't just in entertainment, is it? Based on the next sources, it seems to be seeping into the very pillars of society, like our justice system.
Yes, we have a report on the Moneybags trial, where a defendant, Bendy Krendy, was found not guilty of attempted bribery of Judge Dalton B. Krelmer.
Not guilty? Was there evidence?
Despite CCTV footage clearly showing the bribe and Krendy explicitly saying, quote, "This is a bribe."
So video evidence and a confession, but not guilty. How?
Judge Krelmer overturned the jury's unanimous guilty verdict, citing his strong gut feeling that the defendant was innocent.
A gut feeling. Overturning a unanimous jury and video evidence.
He even allowed the defense to present several psychics as witnesses, who all denied Krendy committed bribery.
Psychics. As witnesses.
Yeah.
In a bribery trial.
Yes. Krelmer's justification for overturning the jury was that evidence is one thing, but instinct is much more important.
Instinct is more important than evidence in court now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Furthermore, Krendy was caught on camera making a throat-slitting motion to the jury, which Judge Krelmer apparently found disturbing.
Disturbing.
Yeah.
But not enough to uphold the guilty verdict.
Apparently not. The defense attorney, Barry Snodgrass, incredibly claimed the CCTV footage was a spontaneous hallucination experienced by millions of people at once.
A mass hallucination. That was the defense.
That was the claim reported. Judge Cromer was last seen leaving the courthouse with a large bag of money.
A large bag of money, of course he was. A unanimous jury verdict overturned by a gut feeling and psychic testimony, blatant evidence dismissed as hallucination, and the judge walks away with cash. It paints a bleak picture of justice being completely undermined by personal whim and, well, apparent corruption. It's a fundamental breakdown of the rule of law, suggesting objective truth can be dismissed for subjective instinct, especially when a bag of money is involved.
This scenario underscores a deep societal vulnerability, doesn't it? The erosion of foundational institutions. When the very definition of evidence and justice becomes malleable, susceptible to personal feelings, and even blatant corruption, the implications for societal trust are profound.
Absolutely.
It suggests a disturbing reality where the legal system can be openly mocked and manipulated. It highlights a really cynical view of power and accountability.
And the courtroom seems to be a hotbed of strange occurrences, not just in this case.
That's right. During another trial, the prosecutor played a video of the defendant filming women use public restrooms, including, graphically, a woman defecating.
Okay, disturbing evidence, but necessary for the trial, perhaps. What happened?
The source states that juror number 2 began involuntarily moaning in pleasure.
Moaning. In the jury box.
Moaning even louder, and then uncontrollably. Juror number 2 then apparently asked the prosecutor, "Would you like to see some more footage, Mr. Juror number 2?" And then stated, "This is so hot, I can't believe I'm getting off to this."
The juror asked himself if he wanted to see more footage and announced he was getting off to it in court.
That's the scene described. Other jurors became uncomfortable, and some start to leave the courtroom.
I should think so.
Oh, yeah.
The utter breakdown of decorum and professional conduct in a courtroom setting is astonishing. The idea that personal gratification can so brazenly override the sanctity of legal proceedings, the solemnity of a trial. It's truly unsettling.
Yeah.
It suggests a disturbing erosion of boundaries in even the most serious public spaces where private desires publicly eclipse public duty.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's clear that boundaries, even those we consider sacred, are being utterly disregarded in these narratives, particularly for commercial gain or personal gratification. A prime example, according to another source, is a William Hill commercial featuring Jerry and Kate McCann.
The McCanns, parents of Madeline McCann, in a gambling ad.
Yes. The commercial reportedly shows Jerry saying, "We've had our share of luck and our share of bad luck, like our daughter, Madeline."
He compared their missing daughter to bad luck in an ad.
Kate then adds, "Well, while we no longer have our daughter, at least we still have the William Hill app."
At least we still have the William Hill app. This is horrifying.
Jerry concludes, "Let's just hope the police don't look too closely at us."
They joked about police suspicion in the ad.
And the announcer delivers the tagline, "Madeline or no Madeline, you can have a flutter with William Hill."
Madeline or no Madeline. This is beyond insensitive. It's a shocking exploitation of a family's real-life tragedy, a missing child, for commercial gain, even implying their own culpability for a shocking punchline.
It's deeply unsettling.
What does it say about the lengths advertisers will go and the lines society seems willing to cross when money is involved? It's a profound disregard for human suffering, reducing genuine sorrow to a twisted marketing ploy.
And this also ties into how traditional, even solemn spaces are being co-opted for commercial messages. According to another source detailing the funeral eulogy for a woman named Susan Nipwood,
Okay, a funeral. What happens here?
a vicar delivering the eulogy suddenly claims, "I can see Susan's ghost."
The vicar sees a ghost during the eulogy.
Yes. And the ghost is reportedly repeating the words, "William Hill."
The ghost is saying William Hill.
The vicar interprets this as Susan's final wish, urging attendees to deposit £100 at William Hill to take advantage of a Cheltenham Madness bonus offer,
He's using the ghost sighting to push a betting offer at her funeral.
stating, "This weekend they are running their irresistible Cheltenham Madness bonus offer, so it's the perfect time to do it." He concludes by thanking Susan for her final message and promising to honor your wishes.
A funeral turning into a live betting advertisement, seemingly at the behest of the deceased's ghost. It's both absurd and deeply disrespectful. It highlights this complete breakdown of sacred space in the face of commercial opportunism. It's as if every last vestige of personal dignity, even in death, can be commodified and exploited, suggesting a world where no boundary is too sacred for profit. Okay, so from the large-scale absurdity of governments and media, let's now look at some deeply personal stories from these sources, stories that raise questions about perception, judgment, and the very essence of human experience. Okay, so from public struggles to a deeply personal and disturbing childhood narrative. This next source pulls back the curtain on a truly dark experience. This is the story of Jenko's childhood.
Okay. This source describes Jenko as a small, shy boy with hopeful eyes at age 10, trying to join a group of kids playing.
A familiar childhood scene.
But he is cruelly bullied. The kids trick him, then chase him and shove mud into his mouth.
Awful. Typical bullying, unfortunately.
But then, shockingly, the school's head teacher, Mr. Smith, hears Jenko's cry, rushes over, and instead of helping, he joins in, shoving mud into Jenko's mouth.
Our head teacher joined the bullies, shoving mud in his mouth.
That's what the source describes. Jenko, in his despair, vows to himself, "One day I'll show them. I'll learn Brazilian jiu-jitsu."
A response born of trauma, trying to regain power.
The story then concludes with a chilling scene, a sinister knock on his bedroom door at night. His father, Andrew, enters, smiling darkly, and says, "It's special Daddy Squishy time."
Oh, no.
Andrew then unbuckles his belt, and Jenko's face fills with fear.
This narrative is profoundly unsettling. It depicts a series of horrific betrayals from peers to an authority figure who's supposed to protect, culminating in this truly horrifying suggestion of abuse at home.
It's incredibly dark.
It's a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of children and the places where safety and trust can tragically break down, leaving a child with nowhere to turn. It makes you wonder how such deep, compounding trauma shapes a person's entire life and worldview, and the dark underbelly that can exist even within seemingly normal environments.
This story forces us to consider those hidden realities behind closed doors and the devastating impact of unchecked cruelty, especially from figures of authority who should protect. It's a stark reminder that the darkest corners of human behavior often exist in plain sight, unacknowledged. And that search for control or mastery, like Jenko's vow to learn jiu-jitsu, can be born from profound powerlessness. It speaks to the insidious nature of systemic failure when those who should protect actually participate in the harm.